Did you ever hear of the evangelical pastor Joel Olsteen? Well, I have secret government documents that conclusively prove beyond a reasonable doubt that, and I know you won't believe me, that he's actually a horse. Now, you may be asking a lot of questions right now. How can a horse put on a suit? Well, think of it this way. Have you ever seen like an animal dressed up like a dachshund put into like human clothes? Well, see, decades ago, Joel Olsteen learned to walk on his hind legs. He was a very productive horse. He was the most productive horse in Texas. Now, Joel Olsteen's from Texas. Texas is known for its horses, and basically he was rated best in show for like 10 years running in a local rodeo. So what happened is since he got named best in show so many times, they put him up as like the prize show pony. That was his nickname. Probably like, I mean, even that name Joel Olsteen, that's not like a human name. But anyway, my point is that they cut off his tail, and he ended up dyeing his skin, and he trimmed his mane. If you put him and a horse in the same room, like, you're not even going to be able to tell the difference. I know, but it's true. You may say, well, don't horses have long snouts? Well, he kind of does too. And according to the government document that I found, he actually got like a lot of, because he has this huge mega church and it's taxpayer funded, and he actually uses the exemptions from the tax to fund a hologram program, which reduces the size of his nose slightly, because he still has a horse profile. When he turns to the side, his nose is clearly like 7 to 8 inches long. But when he faces forward, you can't tell, because, again, a lot of people don't know this, but when you turn face forward, you're actually turning the radius of the vertex of your face. His head is actually oval or conical shaped, but because he's facing you, it looks flat, and so his pugnacious snout is actually compressed when he faces you. So anyway, if he's been getting criticized a lot in the media lately, and I find it really offensive because, he's a horse, and he went through a lot of like hardships. Okay, he had to raise himself up. Oh, yeah, this is a creepy story. Okay, so he had bloodshot eyes. So I saw him once, and he had bloodshot eyes, and he looked at me, and he neighed really loudly. I was in the front row at his show, and he turned to me, and he neighed really loudly, and that's it. Is that it? Yeah. And when horses make that noise, he did like a ritualistic, like horses will sometimes in lesser parts of North America, they'll stand on each other's hind legs and do a ritualistic mating dance. And he started doing that with, they call it a pulpit. It's that thing at the front of the church. Like, he was standing there with his hooves, and he does have hooves. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, he's straight up got hooves. He wears, you'll notice he tucks his hands into his collar, but those aren't his hands. They're actually plastic hands that cover hooves, but sometimes you'll just see the hoof. The hoof is that hard part that they make glue out of, or they used to. I don't know if they do it anymore, but it used to be that you'd say like you're taking a trip to the glue factory, and that would mean that Joel Olsteen, I'm gonna melt your bone marrow down into glue. But because he's a horse, that's completely socially acceptable. I have a socio-political degree in micro and macroeconomics, and I know how all that works. The horse, the use of horses. But I still think that Joel had to overcome a lot of adversity to end up being that horse. That number one horse. So you can insult him for closing his church off to like flood victims, but you know, nobody talks about how, you know, a horse in a field doesn't, like, you know, rescue a gazelle. That's basically what it is. It's basically a horse in a field not killing yeah, do horses eat gazelles? I know that's lions. Well, horses are mostly vegetarians, so let's think of it this way. If you had, like, a carrot, and that horse didn't protect that carrot from a flood, it doesn't matter because it's a carrot. And that's my point. I mean, I'm not protecting the guy. Actually, I forgot. This is a creepy story. Anyway, I was at one of his shows, and he turned to me and he whispered in a really slithery voice. He said, "I'm actually a horse," but it was like really quick, and the camera cut immediately. Like, I saw the guy, because when you go to those big televangelist shows, you know what they'll do is they'll have like 6 cameras running, and I saw all 6 cameras immediately pan. Like, they immediately turned. And I heard the director yell "cut" like really loudly. And it actually sounded like he yelled "cunt," which is a euphemism for a vagina. But I think that might have been because Joel Olstein's horse vagina was visible on stage. Because he does have a horse vagina. Anyway, I have to go. I gotta go. But, anyway, this is the creepy story about Joel Olsteen. Because... And then he turned to me and he said,
"Listen here."
And, he was covered in flies. He was absolutely covered in flies. I mean, horses tend to attract flies, so that's not like anything against him. He's equine. So when you're equine, you know, one of the major problems with the equine family of animals is that they tend to be, you know, they don't wash themselves.